Great, I am very excited to host you all today along with a couple of organizations. Ce2 Charlotte Entrepreneurs and Espresso. Raise your hand if this is your first time participating. Awesome. Well, very glad to have you. Organizations help pull this together. CBIC, Charlotte Business Innovation Council, CIC, the Community Investment Collaborative, the SABC, the Central Virginia Small Business Development Center, and also we are sponsored by the Baptist UVA, Watermark Design, and the code-based co-working, which we're very grateful for the utilization of this space. So we're very, very appreciative. This event has been going since 2015, so really long-standing through a pandemic and everything. So we're very happy to keep it going. And the way it's set up is we have two speakers every month. We have an early stage company which shares about their company, and then they've been asked for the audience. So they have something that they want your help with to help them grow to the next level. So there's a lot of participation and engagement there. And then we have a more seasoned entrepreneur, founder, that shares their crash and learn stories and just about their journey. And there's Q&A at the end of that. And then we close with announcements, which I'll talk about that at that time. So, sound good? Awesome. We always meet the third Tuesday of the month, except for December. Become December, it'll be just you. But I will jump right in. So, I wanted to introduce our first speaker, early stage, Hardesty, and her company, Poppy Flowers. I'm going to give you a little bit of her background. She grew up in Dallas, Texas, and was an 07 grad at Davidson College as an English major. She also played D1 soccer all 4 years of college. And from there, used her English major to really pursue a career in communications, in government and crisis and corporate communication. So she has a very interesting background. She started her career in U.S. Customs and Border Protection. As an executive assistant and then media writer, and then did English as a second language in Spain for about a year. Then worked for Edelman as an executive assistant, and then she actually started working at the White House. So she was at the White House for a number of years as the director of digital strategy and speech writing, and then deputy assistant director of public affairs. But also, she's going to talk about this more. But she also became a volunteer to the chief floral designer. Did you guys know that there's a chief floral designer at the White House? A CFD. And she was a volunteer to learn under that person. And from there, Poppy was born. And so she'll talk about that. What part of Charlottesville was her parents retired here, and so wanted to be close to the family. We actually met at a library at a toddler meeting time. And those that I know, what a just awesome founder she is. I think you guys will be excited to hear from her. She goes to Tory Burch. She was the Tory Burch Foundation Fellow in 2021 and served on the Floral Council for the Produce Marketing Association. And she also, I'll stop there because that's a lot. So help me welcome Cameron Hardesty.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Nice to see everyone, and thanks for the warm welcome to Charlottesville with Rebecca and the team. So I'm going to talk about 5 things. 1, a little bit of my background, because it's unusual path to entrepreneurship. 2, what Poppy does, how we do it, our traction, and my last piece is going to be an ask for all of you. So as I mentioned, my path to entrepreneurship kind of started in the basement of the White House. I was working in the drug policy office during the Obama administration, and took my parents on a holiday tour, and the flowers just blew me away. And I had really been missing sort of the creative side of me since college, and at that point I was in my sort of late 20s. And so I cold emailed the chief floral designer at the White House, found out there was one, and asked if I could volunteer. And so I spent a year of weekends and evenings learning floral design. And it just so happened that my colleague at my day job, her husband and close friend, started a company called Hardesty, which is a venture-backed floral gifting business. And I'm the only person in their world who knew anything about flowers. So I started volunteering for them, in addition to my day job. I volunteered for the White House, and that turned into a full-time job in 2015. So I joined their business as head of merchandising right after they raised their seed round, and I left just before they raised their Series B. So we were about a $10 million run rate when I left. And while I was there, I found out a lot of people felt like they were spending way too much on their wedding flowers, and they didn't understand why. They came to us asking, I love the technical convenience and the affordability that you bring to gifting for my wedding flowers, why can't you do it? So being an entrepreneurial person that I am, I really pushed us to try. And I realized it's a whole different business model. So that's when I started Poppy. I also got engaged while I was at Urban Stems, and I figured out for myself why wedding flowers were so expensive. There's been absolutely no tech innovation in this category of the floral industry, pretty much ever, and no supply chain innovation that lowers prices for companies like Urban Stems or another competitor of ours called the Booth, which are also going after the same market share as 1-800 flowers. So I started Poppy, and my wedding was sort of a Poppy wedding. So I bought all of our flowers directly from the farms that I bought for Urban Stems. And I gathered a group of about 5 independent contractor floral designers to bring my sort of floral design vision to life. And I saved $20,000 on my wedding flowers. And I was like, well, I was walking through your house the Thursday for my wedding thinking, there's a business here. I'm not going to figure it out today on the very first, but when I'm back from this honeymoon, I'm going to figure out this business model. And it's taken a while, but here we are. So on to kind of where we're positioned in the market will help explain what we do. So if you ever think about buying flowers online, you probably think of 1-800 flowers. We are not that business. The sort of Achilles heel for quality control in 1-800 flowers is that all of their fulfilling florists, 5,000 of them across the country, have to hold perishable inventory on demand and match it to a really unpredictable demand from the customer. Poppy is different in that we don't hold any inventory. We have a high average order value. Our average order value is about $2,800. And we have a solid close to 50% gross margin. So when you think about kind of, and again, this is a little bit inside baseball for people who know the floral industry. When you think about sort of what causes quality issues for 1-800 flowers and what causes really gross margin issues for its competitors, Poppy's in a different realm. We are really a new business model within the floral industry. So I want to hone in on the customer that we serve. So within the wedding space, there's sort of a barbell effect. Because of the lack of tech innovation, the lack of supply chain innovation, it's really easy for people who are spending not a lot of money on their wedding flowers, so about $500, to have a lot of options. They can buy from Costco, they can buy rent and return silk flowers. It's basically just drop shipping flowers, those are their options, and then do it themselves. On the luxury market, there's a lot of options for people for whom money is no object. But this middle section of customer, which is about a $2 billion niche, doesn't have good options. The national average for a wedding floral spend is about $2,500. Those customers aren't DIYing, so they don't want flowers just drop shipped to them. They don't have $50,000 to spend on their flowers. But for them, $3,000 is a lot to spend on flowers. They're not getting a good, they're not really feeling like they're getting the value for the money that they're willing to spend. So this is our niche. And the reason why they don't get good service now is that this florist, who typically wants a $5,000 or more budget from their customer, doesn't perceive this customer as profitable because they have to spend the same amount of administrative time on this customer as they do on a $10,000 customer. They only have 52 weekends a year to make all the money that they're going to make in the year. So this customer kind of gets ignored. So we're kind of the best option for them, but this is how we make the margins work. We buy all our flowers farm direct. This is sort of the biggest arbitrage opportunity. Most florists buy their flowers from wholesalers. We save about 50% on cost of goods by buying farm direct. Secondly, we work with independent floral designers in 50 markets across the country to do our week of assembly, delivery, and installation. Why do these people like working with us? Floral designers are typically attracted to this business because they're creatives. But they're asked to do accounting, marketing, customer service, sales, procurement, purchase ordering, and also floral design. And that becomes a burden and a burnout factor. So they're looking for a back office solution like the one that we provide. So floral design, we built our network to about 500 floral designers in the last 3 years with no ad spend, less than 2% churn. And on average, we pay about 15 to 20% of the deal value to these florists. So they love working with coffee. And this is sort of an overview of the 3 pillars of how our business works. So we built a front and back end proprietary platform where we can navigate a pretty complex sale with the support of a floral designer who's actually making the sale, who's on staff for coffee. And then all of the data that the customer gives us about their style preferences and what they're interested in actually generates the full order purchase order that we can then send to the farms. We use also the same information to pair that job with the appropriate designer in that market. As I mentioned, we have a designer network of about 500 independent floral designers. Their relationship with coffee is as a 1099 contractor. And then we have this high value, high intent, but really underserved customers. This is one of our actual customers who got married in Carmel, California. And I didn't mention this at the beginning, but part of my journey to building this business was through COVID. And like many entrepreneurs, had to navigate pretty rocky waters. So we launched the business really January 2020. And within 3 months, we had pivoted to a completely different business model. I didn't know how long that would last. Luckily, it was the right way, the right time. We were selling arrange-your-own flower kits from the same farm where we got our wedding flowers, but selling to the end consumer who were stuck at home, making sourdough, learning floral arranging. Not don't want to take you back to those dark days, but it worked for us. And it got us on the Today show in September 2020 and recruited to Techstars Atlanta, which we completed in 2020. Coming out of that, I raised our first round of institutional capital, $1.65 million seed round led by Idea Fund Partners, the VC based in Durham, North Carolina. Then we pivoted back to the business model that we have today. And this has been our growth trajectory. So this is a graph of our wedding bookings. You can see in 2020, it's pretty minuscule. We had a really big growth year in 2021, which was also a year that I became pregnant with my daughter. And for anyone considering becoming pregnant while deploying your first round of institutional capital in a year, I recommend not to do that. It was very stressful, but worked out. We fielded an acquisition offer from one of the largest wedding companies in the world that year. When I was 36 weeks pregnant. So didn't move forward with that, but they ended up becoming a major investor in puppies. Last year, we achieved 2.3 million in wedding sales, and we've already surpassed that so far in 2023. So we updated our forecast for the year to just over 6 million in wedding bookings. And in Q1 2024, we're forecasting consistent month-over-month profitability, which for a VC-backed company this early in our life cycle is pretty rare. So this is kind of what our growth path looks like. My ask for you all is, if you know anybody, so what sustains our growth and what is going to grow us into profitability next year is sales. And I didn't mention this on our slide, but the last I would say last year was all about climbing the growth margin curve. So we started the year, I hate to say this, at a negative 12% gross margin on everybody we sold in Q1 2022. In Q4, our gross margin was 52%. Full year gross margin ended about 37%. We're consistently at a 45% gross margin this year. So that was our focus in 2022 alongside growth. This year, our focus has been sales. So back in December, I sort of initiated an overhaul of our sales structure, sales org. We hired a bunch of new people, we ended up firing some people, we made incremental changes to our UX. All of that resulted in doubling our conversion rate, our full funnel conversion rate from December to now, which means cutting our CAC in half. So now that we're very profitable, we have a great gross margin, our CAC is under control, we are hiring salespeople like crazy. And for someone with a floral design skill set, this is a really good job. You can make a 6-figure income as a floral designer, working from home flexibly at your computer. So if you know anybody who is a floral designer or has a wedding or a floral design background, who is interested in using their skill set in a different way, please email me or have them email me. That's my next here.
Thank you, Cameron, so much. Is there anything else, Cameron, that you, in addition to that, like, advice on or perspective in terms of, feedback on the direction you guys are going now? Opinions?
Yeah, one of the things that has been on my mind, that I started to talk to various lawyers about it, labor and employment lawyers, is this issue of 1099 contractors. So we all know that in California, and now apparently Massachusetts too, I recently learned, the threshold for being classified as a W-2 is a lot lower. And as our network has grown and we have a more diverse group, I've been thinking a lot about how are these people going to end up being classified in the eyes of the law. So we started investigating this. Right now, we're pretty confident that our relationship with the designers, the 1099 contractor, is sound, but it is something that I've been thinking about a lot. 1-800-Flowers business model structurally is not too dissimilar from ours. They just don't do weddings, but their commercial relationship that they're fulfilling florists is not a 1099 contractor. They just pass through the majority of the order value that they intake to the fulfilling designer. So that's another option for us too. If anyone in the crowd has any background in labor and employment law, please feel free to weigh in. Or if you've seen a similar problem in another industry.
Yeah, even if you can relate to that question or have seen it in your own industry, does anyone have thoughts around that?
That'd be great. Sounds good.
I'm using the mic because we're recording this, by the way, just send it out.
How do you balance between staying flexible? It's so cool what you did during COVID to solve that problem in a creative way. How do you solve kind of being flexible and meeting your customers' demands and trying to build something new with staying focused and like making sure you're putting all of your energy towards the big picture?
That's such a good question. When I started Poppy, I'm sure like many of the entrepreneurs in this audience, I got the advice, focus is really important, focus. And I got the same advice when I was at Urban Stems, and I didn't really take it in because I don't think I really understood the economic impact of focus or lack of focus. And when COVID hit, it was just a free-for-all. It was just like, let's figure out how to get through this and make it work. But in 2021, in my graph, we actually had more revenue from our Poppy at Home direct-to-consumer line of business than we did from weddings. And in the middle of the year in May, which is Mother's Day, so it's a really big spike for retail, our sales for weddings and our sales for Poppy at Home were exactly the same. So if you looked at our P&L, it wasn't clear which direction to go in, but I had this really strong thesis from years of industry insights that there was an opportunity in the wedding category. And then I found out how hard it is to unwind a business unit that's throwing off revenue. And so I knew that we needed to get back to its original focus to be differentiated in the market. But it took over a year to really unwind that line of business and to refocus. And it took a lot of like knocks over the head to realize that's what needed to happen. And I think the final blow for me was I was coming back from maternity leave after about 10 weeks off. I was like, I gotta get working again. And it was a month before Valentine's Day, which is another really big retail holiday spike for the floral industry. And I decided that it was going to be a good use of my time and the team's time, which was not wrong, to spin up a new product line, a new type of delivery, a month before the biggest logistical holiday of the year, and amid a lot of sea competition. And we spent probably $75,000 to make $25,000, complete failure. And in that moment, I realized, you know what, this business line, we need to let it go. We have no differentiating factor. It's super competitive. It's super low dollar margin. And we have this whole other line of business that no one else is trying to do, we're uniquely positioned to do. But it wasn't something I turned on a dime. Like, I think flexibility it took me a year to like really learn that lesson. So I think, yeah, I realized when I look back at how much money we spent on trying to push this line of business that wasn't really our bread and butter, it was a big waste. So I guess like, I think if I had been more consistent with staying true to kind of my original vision, we probably would have saved some money, but sometimes you have to learn things the hard way.
You mentioned that you had an acquisition offer and then took an investment for the potential strategic. Could you share a little bit more about the pros and cons of that decision? If you bring on the strategic and now they have visibility into what you are, are they less interested, more interested in potential acquisition down the road? Anything you can share more on that perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I got a lot of varying advice about whether to take the strategic investment or not. And I think it's pretty unique. The circumstances are fairly unique to my business and my industry. I was at the very end of the funding cycle for disruptive floral e-commerce businesses. So the very first one was launched in 2010. Most of them failed, some of them really badly. The ones that raised the most capital are kind of like going along, but they're not going to be venture scale outcomes for their investors. So going into Puppy, I was like, had some ambivalence about raising venture. I knew that it would be hard, given the type of business that I started. So it was always kind of on my radar to seek strategic investment. And the investor who participated was at the very top of my acquirer list. That said, the devil's in the details. The negotiation went on it started as an M&A process in May, and it resulted in the terms of the investment were finalized at the end of October. And most of that time was spent negotiating the terms of the investment. So things that were really important to me were no right of first refusal. They have a right of notification. So if we get an offer, we have to let them know so they can put something together within 5 days. That seemed reasonable to me, given the amount they were investing. They have a board observer seat, but no voting rights. And so we were really, I think we tried to keep the terms super clean so that when another strategic wanted to get involved, there wouldn't be too much complication. Since then, actually 1-800-Flowers was also approached us for a strategic partnership, but the terms they proposed were not ones I was willing to consider. But I think basically for me, I think the choice was like, we take the strategic capital or we have to pivot to profitability a lot faster because there's probably not much more venture out there for us. And that was in 2022 after the market turned. So, and I think it depends on the company too. Like the executive team of this company, I think really likes to get to know potential acquisitions. They really want to get to know you culturally, how do you get to know them. And so I think overall it's been a real positive. And they've been like somewhat helpful on the strategic partnership side. I wouldn't say it's been like an absolute success yet, but they've been, more helpful than they would have been if they were investors.
We'll do one more.
I know that the cut flower industry is largely based on importing from Colombia, Holland, and other countries like that. But does your business model insulate you from any changes in the industry like that? I mentioned if there were a global problem or a difference in shipping or fuel costs to fly planes over here because it's all like I took a electric class, so it's like everything's iced and 2 days away, and then it's does it insulate you from that because you're going through retailers?
No, and you know a lot more about the floral industry than the average Joe, I would say. But you're right, that most of the flowers that are sold here are grown in Colombia or Ecuador. We buy 60% of our fresh product from a small group of family-owned farms in Ecuador. So we are subject to the same concerns that I would say a wholesaler or importer has around the cost of fuel, logistics, and even now weather. The weather in Ecuador and Colombia used to be super reliable, year-round, great growing season, and now with climate change, that's shifting. So it's something that's on our radar, but I think given how much buffer we had buy from them compared to wholesalers, it's still advantageous for us to buy their personal farms. But there's a preponderance of local flower farmers on the East Coast and in California. I'd love to be able to buy more locally. Logistically, it's really complicated for a national scale company. So it's like on the roadmap, but probably about 5 years away. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the chance to be here.
Much, Cameron. And then your information, I know this screen on, so it was,
It's Cameron at poppyflowers.com.
Cameron at poppyflowers.com. So feel free to reach out to her, keep in touch with her, get some more thoughts on her ask or her sales team or whatever. So awesome. Well, I am now going to bring up our crash and learn. Not to be confused with crash and burn. Seasoned entrepreneur. It's not crash and burn, it's crash and learn. So David is going to talk about some things he's learned along the way. Just some great lessons. His background, I know he's got a lot going on with his background in healthcare, but I'll tell you a few things. He was born in Chicago and then lived everywhere. He said nowhere, which I interpreted as everywhere. But he has, he has a PhD in management from Vanderbilt University, an MBA from AGSN. At the time, he said a joint degree from the University of Sydney and the University of New South Wales, and a BA in economics from Northwestern University, in the reverse order that I just said. He has been assistant professor and director of the Gallant Center for Entrepreneurship within the McIntyre School of Commerce here at UVA. He's been assistant professor at Washington Lee University within the Williams School of Commerce, Economics, and Politics. And most recently, the senior director of the Batten Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the Darden School of Business right here in Charlottesville, focused on their venture program, overseeing their Catalyst Accelerator program. And also you might know him from running the iLab as well, which Brandon will touch on. But kind of a fun new transition that he's in right now. He's moving over to the managing director of 434 being really still the Catalyst program that's separated out from UVA, which is really going to create a lot of opportunity, I think, for the community and additional participation. Teaches courses in technology and innovation, and sits on the university-wide Entrepreneurship Advisory Council, which organizes competitions, communications, and other aspects of entrepreneurship at UVA. And finally, but not, has founded or held leadership positions in a series of private companies, venture-backed technology companies, startups, etc., doing the full life cycle, from ideas, acquisition, some successful, some not successful, and has advised global technology companies, international intellectual property institutions, early stage companies, and really on and on. So I know he'll elaborate on his background. So help me welcome David Touve.
I'm not used to using the mic, so I'll use it.
Yeah, thank you.
I worked in trading for the earliest part of my career, so I have a higher volume than most people. If you meet me online, this is what I look like. We created all these during the pandemic, our own little emojis, to keep us alive. My name is David Touve. I do not know why you pronounce the E. Does anybody else have a name that ends in E and you pronounce the E? No, I don't know why your E's are supposed to be silent. Going forward, you can reach me at david@434.co. If you have any questions, my david@virginia.edu will continue to work as well. So feel free to reach out there. I'll be just providing a crash and burn and learn conversation today. Maybe there'll be time for Q&A. I thought I just would share this as a potential crash and learn experience. This was the old iLab, for those of you that remember it. I happened to drive up the day as they were tearing it down. It's so sad. The Idea Lab is what's here on the left. It was the last stand, if anybody remembers the Idea Lab. But that led to some learning experiences. There is a new space. The space is inside the Darden facility. But it meant we need to think a little bit differently about how we were engaged with Charlottesville, because essentially for a number of years, that space was a key asset around Charlottesville before buildings like this and others existed. So thus was born Catalyst, which is now for Accelerator, which I'll discuss more in detail at the time. This is a program to support early stage innovation technology-based companies based here in Central Virginia, specifically the Charlottesville area and surrounding counties, and I am making that up, I'm not a person. So, no, it's a collaboration with support from the city, the county, the state, as well as some private foundations, and I'm still working on some of that, because I'll officially begin that role in August, as they say, and we've provided actually almost half a million, over 400,000 grant support to over 22 companies. They've gone on to raise over $25 million just in the last 4 years, and employ over 100 people, most of whom are actually here in the Charlotte area. So the word entrepreneur is what we're going to talk a little bit about today, because when you think about it, as you experience life as a founder, you unfortunately over time learn a lot about this word. So when you hear the word entrepreneur, what other words come to mind? Alternatively, what words do you think describe the entrepreneur? Just say anything and I'll hear you. Nothing will be, yes. What? Market maker. Ironically, I was a market maker. Yes. Anything else? Risk taker. Creative. A creative risk taker who likes to make markets. Keep going. A visionary, creative risk taker who likes to make markets. Yes. Suffering. Pain and suffering. What else? Passionate, hardworking. What? Lonely. Oh. What's your first name? Someone talk to Max. Max. All right. So we all, the spirit is when I ask junior high age people, they have words they associate with this word. And yet they may not even know how to spell this word very well, or even have much experience with this. So let's talk about a little bit today, because in many ways, working as a founder and working with founders is about sort of unpacking and almost unwrapping who an entrepreneur is, or even just discarding it altogether and realize you're doing something different. So let's talk a bit about who and what is an entrepreneur. Attributes of entrepreneurs. This is over 60 years old, this research, right? And they probably could have done this 200 years ago. That's when we first started studying the entrepreneur. Committed and determined, the leaders, opportunity obsessed, they can take on risk, ambiguity, and uncertainty, which, by the way, if you're an academic, those three words all mean something completely different. Creative, self-reliant, with an ability to adapt, and motivated to excel. All right, quiz. How many of you have ever been committed or determined to a cause? Not to an institution, but to a cause. Raise your hand. Great. How many of you have ever been a leader of some kind? Even if it's just a group of one, max. How many of you have ever been opportunity obsessed? Like you pursued something in hot pursuit? Yes. How many of you can tolerate risk? How about ambiguity? That's sort of like, I don't know what this is. How about uncertainty? This is like, flip the coin, I don't know if I'm gonna get a head or a tail. All right. How many of you are creative? This is where most people won't usually raise their hand. The opposite of creative apparently is self-reliant. How many of you are self-reliant? Okay. And how many of you have ever been motivated to excel, not the spreadsheet, but success? Great. So you are all entrepreneurs. All right. So if you're someone who's been asked to teach this or work with people who want to engage with it or even engage with it yourself, you're basically talking about the entire population. Right? And we're done. Right? You all necessarily have this. So now let's see if you're likely to start a company. Entrepreneurship in this case means you're likely to start a company. I won't read all of these. You can scan them quickly, and I'll run through and we'll think about what I need to teach you to do in order to hit these marks. So I'm more likely to help you become an entrepreneur if one, I get you to get your parents to quit their job. Two, I help you get a job, and then I help you get fired. Three, I send you to another country. Because now you're an immigrant and you're more likely to start a company in any country you move to. That job that we help get you in number two, it has to be with a company greater than 100 people, and then I help you get fired. This next one, how many of you are not the oldest child in your family? Paul, sorry, this was Paul, what would you do to become the oldest child in your family? Can you think of some ideas? Okay, that'd be good ones. I'm fortunately the oldest child, so I'll be okay until my sister figures it out. Or be a college graduate, which is kind of the business I've been engaged with now for like 15 years. Right? College. So should anyone teach? Well, some of these we should teach, probably the college thing, but maybe not the how to innovate or thing. So the question of who will I entrepreneurs may actually be the wrong question. It really sort of be that me. I think at times, and I think it does other people as well. So let's think about the dark side. These are these myths or like stereotypes. Our brain is a stereotyping machine, so is ChatGPT. And these are myths that can lead you astray, like ChatGPT can lead you astray at times. All right, here we go. Number one, the guru. Number two, the genius. Yeah, sorry. Number three, the gambler, and number four, the gunslinger. They all have to start with G. What we're not going to talk about today is the other G that I talked about in a different session called the dirty white guy. Because we tend to associate the tech company, let's be honest, with the dirty white guy. And we'll see a few dirty white guys here. So the guru. The guru just knows, right? They're born this way. And actually, if you talk to a lot of people, they would say people are born entrepreneurs or not, which is intriguing. Like this guy, right? May rest in peace. Like Macintosh, the iPod, this is the one Apple object I never had. And this object, can anybody name what this is? This is the Lisa, right? A total failure, unfortunately, that most people don't want to talk about, and incredibly awkward as well, because it's named after the daughter that has a very complicated relationship with Steve Jobs. So years ago, we stood in front of everybody and said, "Hold the future," and the funny thing is, it's looked a lot like something from the past. Which unfolded. So let's wait a second. Let's go back to 1989, and this is what your laptop looks like. Those of you that were not born until after 2000, these objects actually existed and worked. And this was your mobile phone. It was largely mobile, but not in the same way they are now. And this project is emerging out of Apple, a project called Paradigm. And they're talking about a mobile device that you can write upon and do all sorts of things. And in fact, can even make phone calls. As mobile devices in the late 80s, and what do we do? So what does Apple do? They actually kicked them out. So three dirty white guys started a company called General Magic. Has anybody seen this documentary? So someone filmed in the early 90s this entire company in its early days, and the footage did not resurface until the late 2010s. Came out as a documentary called General Magic as well. This was the object they imagined, a mobile device that you can touch with your finger that had a glass screen, and a series of apps that you could use to accomplish what you want to accomplish in life. And intriguingly, it had no one. This is the hand drawings of the founder back in the day. It was a total failure because in essence, one of the weird things you learn is sometimes now is not the right time. And in many ways, it's about this evolution and this expanding on the phones of giants. It took a lot of innovation to get to the point where we get out of what we have now. So it's a dose of reality. That's, in essence, founders are a lot like scientists. And they see how it goes. This is becoming a machine behind the lean startup or hypothesis driven development, sped up by essentially the way we can do software development, where we can update software instantly as opposed to weeks or months or years in advance. There's your first iPhone. I think this was a scam. This was a patent Apple file to make it look like they were going to make the phone look like that. But then all of these prototype after prototype to try to test and see what would work, and even the prototype to see if it would actually work before they miniaturized the objects. So really, what founders do is try to leverage the skills and talent of countless people to sort of figure it out over time. Our initial ideas almost always work. We are genii. By the way, does anybody recognize this guy? This is Pierre Omidyar. He was a developer manager at General Magic. He went on to start a little company called eBay. We hired Meg as the first CEO. And in fact, this company has Tony Faddle, who starts Nest and others, the CEOs of YouTube and multiple other founders all sort of became part of this company earlier. So the guru is diffused. Kind of let this one go, maybe. It's great to have instinct, but there's a whole other set of skills that we acquire over the years. The genius, I am simply that smart, soon you will understand. Right? Now I appreciate these myths, because in essence, I was a founder once, so I guess I'm a freaking genius, right? So let's talk about me for a little bit, because I actually don't like to talk about me. This is where I started, on a trading floor. I worked on a trading floor as a market maker for 8 years, and never had a losing quarter, which is a pretty good track record. I usually, in any year, actually doubled or more than money that I've had available to me. Which if you only have 20 bucks in your pocket, it's that much, but it makes for great. But then I had this idea of dating a woman who's a musician, she's not my wife. And I'm like, tell me more about this music industry, this is interesting. Let's do this. Let's upload a bunch of music onto a computer, connect it to the internet, let people pay with a credit card, and then they can pay monthly and stream the music. I don't know, we'll call it noise box. That was the idea. This is 1998. Pay us a monthly fee and you can stream the music. All right. Just so I know how many of you pay a monthly fee these days to stream music to your phones. Yeah. It's tier. Crank it up. All right. This was a bit too early. There were some people that paid one with me. None of my friends paid. We can have a whole other conversation about my friends and myself. But none of them even paid $2.99. And no, this is 1998, so I invite you to figure out how you can take credit cards online for a non-physical object in 1998. There was unfortunately only one industry that was doing this, so you had to make friends with this industry, and there's a documentary out about that as well. So Noisebox didn't go so well, but it was acquired by a company called Sunny, honestly, because I went to the beach one day. I went to the beach after a conference. Someone from the conference was there at the beach when I got out of the cab, and they went to Sunny, this is the company that ultimately acquired what I was working on, and we were bought by Lycos, acquired by Lycos. Ironically, on the day my sister got married, where I was standing up as her best man, started running upstairs to the fax machine to deal with objects. And then San Francisco, because they said they think we live in San Francisco. Then I left and started a company called My Films. Hey, why don't you upload all your videos and share them with the world? This is the year 2000. This was actually just done. But it was technically interesting to see if you could do it. But from a business perspective, it was just done. It was fun to try. It closed pretty quickly once you looked at what the bill was going to be for the streaming. Then on to a company called Kick, which provided you with information about music you listen to when you were listening to pre-streaming music. So we're figuring out what you have on your computer. This was bought by a small electronics company. And then worked with Asian Arts, which was absorbed eventually by a larger software company. And then just fun during grad school, I worked with Gadget to help launch their video game focused platform Joystick. And I became known as the angry old gamer. And I was in my late 30s. That's the way gamers think about age. And that was acquired by AOL. Then off to Isla and the crash. Let's think about other genii. These guys, you know who they are, right? Founders of Google back in the day. This is what Google looked like when it first started. As geniuses, they tried to sell the company for $1 million, but failed. They lowered the price, and it still was not working. So if you were a genius and knew that you could come up with the most amazing search platform ever, why would you try to exit so early when it would obviously become a $1 trillion company? This is the way founders actually work. I'm not a morning person. Nancy, sorry. So Nancy is actually a UVA alum, and here's how they actually start businesses, which isn't necessarily like I know the future. It starts a little bit more often with what do I know, who do I know, and who am I? Those of you in the garden last summer know this is infatuation. It's basically my needs. What is it I know and what can I do? I happen to know a lot about the floral industry, right? And now I'm going to leverage that knowledge to do something. And a lot of the founders we work with have this characteristic. So Nancy's mom used to make hair products in their home, so she started with the ingredients and recipes that her mother used to start Briogeo, which became an extremely large company, and I think it was obvious that I fit in what the name of the company is. She's actually naming a section of the building that you read now as a or these two, Roman and Marina. I think some people don't really know Roman and Marina, two UVA students really interested in cybersecurity. They do all these competitions together. So together with their friends, they started a company called Ce2, which is based here in Charlottesville, still growing. They run CTFs that capture the flag events and other educational experiences for people and companies. So we think that founders see the perfect future, and then we just build the path to the future. It's a pretty straightforward project, right? I know where we're going, we're just going to get there. So imagine instead we just start right here. This is where we are. This is sort of what I started to pick up. Like there's a bunch of stuff you have to do. It's not about having one team. And you kind of have this concept. There's this opportunity area space out there. I'm really interested in flowers. I'm really interested in magazines. I'm really interested in music, right? And then off they go and just start to build stuff. And get feedback and see what the world wants and see what the world doesn't want. And then years later, oftentimes, we have founders in town here that are now finally launching the commercial product 7 years after they started the company. Right? So it takes that long to get to that point to see where we're going to go. So the genius, de-genius, right? We're smart, maybe, but lots of people are smart. More importantly, we sort of learn some interesting tactics and figure it out along the way and survive that long. Currently gambling, I succeed by taking more risk than anyone else is going to take. If you ever took an economics class, this is your launch career. There's a few other concepts, I guess. So let's think about how you would start at Zappos. Of course, you would go out and buy one of these, because that is just cool. Right? The bestest inventory ever for shoes, because we need to prepare ourselves for all the shoes we're going to sell. That is absolutely wrong. Do you know who this person is? This is the founder of Zappos. The irony is hardly anybody knows who the founder of Zappos actually is. This is Nick. Hi, Nick. And this is how Nick started Zappos. So he might have had shoes, but they were only his own. He would just go to the store and buy the shoes when people bought them, right? Because he just wanted to figure out, will people buy shoes, right? And how much will it cost? How many will be returned? Like, how will this business actually work? And he figured out how to do it without any significant commitment of time or money, right? No inventory. This happens over and over and over again when you look at some early tech companies. Where rather than think about what we want in the future, they first focus on what are the risks we can address today, or more importantly, the uncertainties we can address today, so they're less risky. We'll fast forward these. It's sort of obvious. The more you can figure about demand earlier, the more you eliminate risk, right? Which those of you that now raise money and things like that means you actually increase the value of the company because risk and value operate. Firstly, unless you're an options trader, then uncertainty actually increases the value of things you have. Or Chang. Most of you may be a little older and didn't read textbooks. Any of you read textbooks? All right, some of you have. So Chang started out actually as a Craigslist for college students. And they had this hunch they were going to start renting textbooks. So this is what they did. Because they were so afraid of hurting their brand, they called the thing textbook flicks, which is really hard to say. They sold their first textbook and no one knew what to do. Right? So as any smart person would do, we went online, we ordered the textbook, and we had to ship the textbook. Right? They literally just wanted to understand the market for renting textbooks, which is an amazing sort of thing when you think about it. This is the underlying hypothesis. People would like to rent textbooks. People would like to pay for music monthly, stream it like they pay for cable TV. Back in 1998, no. And the answers they gave me once they were actually pressed to pay were amazing. I would never rent music. Would you rent movies? Of course. Why would you rent music? I buy music. It was like the brain would break if they paid for it in a different way. Or Susan from Framebridge, who has never made a frame and starts a company that would grow into hundreds of millions of dollars first makes a website and invites people to share their email address if they're interested in having an object at home framed. She wants to know if people will send you stuff, have you frame it and send it back. Will actually let you have some precious object and send it back. So the gambler de-risks. So you actually tend to learn over time to do the opposite whenever possible. How much risk can you take out of the situation as opposed to introducing into it? And then the gunslinger. Yeah, this is the metaphor spread. Yeah, we're gonna, this is the Clint Eastwood given a company, right? There we go. I think this is our archetype for the gunslinger these days. There you go, right? Who are these guys? These are the founders of Tesla. He was an investor and eventually became, Elon was an investor, eventually became the CEO. No, it's grown to a huge company. The gunslinger thing may work for some people, or maybe it wasn't always gunslinging all the time. It actually took this many people to build the first 1,000 cars. Imagine convincing this many people to stop what they're doing and start this brand new electric car company in a country or planet where new car companies have not succeeded in over half a century. To the United States. Or Bill, and who's the guy on your left? Thank you, Paul Allen. Is he the founder when you think about it? Is he the one taking all the risk? I'm glad you all about that. Or the early founding team of Microsoft. Were they all taking similar risks to found including whatever job they had to start this crazy thing, right? Where we're gonna make DOS and an operating system. With early teams at Google, Apple, and even a local town, a local company here. Anybody recognize these folks? I was able to chat with them about this and spent about 45 minutes making this slide just because I thought it would be fun. Oh, wait. All right, there's 60 of them there. And no, it grew from 3 to 5 people up to 60 over a short window of time. You actually need to build an entire enterprise filled with people willing to be like entrepreneurs, right? To take on responsibility and pursue opportunities in the same way as yourself. There's almost no space for the gunslinger in this circumstance. So the gunslinger disarmed, essentially. If anybody can help me with deep genius, eventually I would really appreciate that. It's not really a word, I would like to come up with that. So who's an entrepreneur? What I've learned over the years is probably the wrong question. We're all incredibly different. Some of us are tall and short, right? Wide and narrow. Experience is actually just first time, the whole thing across the batch. Some of us have a tolerance for a ton of risk, and others of us don't, particularly once we have kids and a house and all sorts of stuff. Ironically, most of the founders in the accelerator program are parents. Taking on like the next project that they're going to do based upon their experience in the industry. It's a totally different cohort from what you see in other national accelerator programs. We all have these attributes, so this isn't a great way to predict whether you'll succeed or fail as a founder, or even whether you'll be a founder. In fact, some people select themselves out because they don't feel like they have these characteristics. And they may, for the circumstances. And these are all sort of myths. They make for great magazine covers, but they don't help us as we think about being founders, how to move the ball forward, and how to work with others to move the ball forward. In particular, oops, these aren't supposed to be there. Anyway, we'll go through it quickly because this is like the really extended ending. Oh, I thought I ended, but this is like the fast version. Question learned by the day to you. If you have any questions, you can reach me David at 434.co. Honestly, I've been in search of the shortest email address ever. You can also reach me at t@434.co. This is the regional accelerator program. I will talk to you all about it at any point in time. And please start something awesome.
Awesome, thank you. Literally, David at Virginia.edu. Who can do that?
Nowhere to go to get email.
We only have time for 0 questions, but we'll do like 1 or 2.
I don't like questions.
So 1 or 2 quick ones. So does anybody have one?
Sarah told me.
Yeah, it's everybody is 0. Okay.
I have a question, but I don't know if it's gonna be a quick one, but I'm interested to hear your like one sentence thought, but so we went through what isn't an entrepreneur or a founder, but what would you say makes an entrepreneur or founder?
I don't really know if I know. Like, they're all different. I don't know if there's anything that makes them, I think the teams that we work with, you know, it's their willingness just to figure it out. And that can be very difficult depending upon what your like personal runway is. So I guess if you walk into the experience assuming at the outset that you're probably wrong, or at least a little bit wrong, like how would you do it differently than this kind of bullheaded, I'm totally right, like barreling down as fast as you can. So they'll see more founders stay with their jobs and then kind of figure it out on the side until they unlock what really seems to be working. Or consult on the side while they're doing that. Or one of them is keep their full-time job and the other was full-time on the project. I honestly think most companies start this way, like you've been told this other story of like people just like throw it all in it, right? Even for this accelerator, like I'm leading a BBA that I've talked to the stakeholders in advance to try to make sure this is something people want to we have kind of a place to land. That would be one thing, I think. It's different from the story you tell, maybe the story you hear about the 20-something that starts something possibly named or this is the likely founder of the planet. And it's the one we like sit on magazine covers. Max. Who's gonna talk to Max afterwards?
Yeah, by the way, not lonely, I just know, I heard sometimes spend your
Oh, yeah.
Can't be lonely if
I
not.
got a friend, he says, you know.
I was gonna say, there's just one slide at the end that I really liked, and I don't remember what it was, can you just go back through real quick?
There's only 100.
But, yeah,
Okay.
that's all.
What was it about?
I don't know, it caught my eye, but I was trying to catch it.
Oh, yeah. This was, well, warning, this was me slowing down. I'm usually up to 10 slides. So it's like, those of you with short attention spans, I am your friend.
David, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Man. He's not hard to find if you want to talk further. So we are going to wrap up with announcements. So what this looks like is you can share if your there's any events coming up you want people to know about, or if your company is hiring. And we're going to give that platform first to the 3 sponsoring organizations. So we'll start with the CIC and Hannah.
Hi, my name is Hannah Heal. I'm Operations Coordinator at Community Investment Collaborative, for those of you who don't know. I've been there for about 1.5 years, and we are a nonprofit that helps small businesses and entrepreneurs. We do this primarily through financing, mentoring, and education. We've been around for close to 11 years now, so if you haven't heard of us, now you have. We have a bunch of resources. We have an entrepreneur workshop that we do twice per year. Applications have closed for Charlottesville, but we are still taking applications for the Culpeper Rouge workshop through the end of the month, through July 31st. So if you or anyone you know is interested in that, please go to our website, cicville.org. This is our first time trying this workshop outside of Charlottesville, so it's very exciting. And we also have a collaborative space, a co-working space, and anyone is welcome to use that if you're interested. I forgot my business cards, what's new, but my email is hannah@cicville.org. Come to the back at the end and I can write that down for you. And we have some other programs as well, so happy to give you more of an overview if you are interested. For announcements today, aside from the workshop, we are hiring for a job. I'm just going to read the description from the website because that's easier. So this is a program manager for REI strategy, regional entrepreneurial investment. CIC and Venture Central have been selected to lead the development of regional entrepreneurial investment strategy for Go Virginia Region 9. CIC now seeks a program manager who will be responsible for managing the REI strategy and delivery. So it's like this position will be funded through a grant for 18 months. So there's more information about that again on our website under the jobs category. We'll also be putting up a job description for FMP coordinator soon, and that's financial management program. And then the last announcement is that CIC is partnering again with the Charlottesville City Market. So we are taking applications currently for people who are interested in being a part of the city market. And as part of that deal, vendors do not have to pay a fee, attend tables and chairs are provided. This is not on our website, so if this is something new or someone you know is interested, please reach out to me or come talk to me at the end and I can send you that link. It's possible to think of something else, or I brought something and share will cover it. One more thing though, there are a lot of people here today, which is awesome. If you did not register or you didn't get checked in, please come to the back at the end. We have a QR code you can scan to get you registered. It just helps us keep track of who is here, and it's especially great to do that on days when we have such a good crowd. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Deanna. I am Sherry Goldine. I'm the events coordinator with the Central Virginia Small Business Development Center, or CVSBDC. Good luck with that one. I have surprisingly little to talk about today, but a little bit about SBDC for anyone that doesn't know. We are a free service supporting small businesses. The Central Virginia office serves City of Charlottesville and 9 surrounding counties. So we go as far south as Nelson and as far north as Culpeper and Rappahannock. I am going to assume that everyone in this room falls under our territory. So what we do is we work with small businesses at any point, from startup through exit and everything in between. And we offer one-on-one business advising, and we run educational programs, and we have access to all sorts of industry research and tools, and our services are all free of charge. And so let me know if you have any other questions about that, or if you're interested in getting connected with SBDC. A program that's available through us, through our state network, is ICAP, which is the Innovation Commercialization Assistance Program, which is often a good fit for the types of entrepreneurs that come to CE2 and other events like this. It is heavily focused in customer discovery and working with tech startups and high growth companies. So if you're interested in any of those things, want to learn more about SBDC, let me know. I'm not going to try to get everyone to remember my email, but I did remember business cards. So I'm happy to give you one if you have questions. And I feel like there's something else I wanted to say and I don't remember. Well, that's going to be it for today. And the first question for the position that CIC is hiring will be, can you spell entrepreneur? I can't.
If you were paying attention to David Touve's presentation, you should be able to spell entrepreneur, I think. I'm Amanda Laskowski. I'm the Deputy Director of Charlottesville Business Innovation Council, or Ce2. And our mission is to nurture Charlottesville's vibrant tech and innovation community and ecosystem by creating opportunities for innovators to connect and collaborate. And we also have educational programs. You can find all that on our website. We're a membership-based organization, but you don't have to be a member to benefit. We have a few monthly events. The one you're at right now is one of them, the third Tuesday of every month. And also the second Tuesday of every month, we have Tech on Tap, currently hosted by the from 5 to 7. And I wanted to talk about our upcoming golf tournament. It's the Secret Golf for Tech tournament at the Club of Glenmore on Monday, August 14th. And all the proceeds from that tournament are to benefit our grants that we give out to public school teachers in STEM education, and also scholarships we got for our tech tour, which is an event in November that connects middle school and high school students to local firms and organizations in tech and STEM. I think that is all that I have to say. But information about the golf tournament are at some of the tables up there. You can scan QR code and learn more. We're looking for foursomes, so if you know the organization that could give their team a day off or a day on a course, just reach out or find us on the website.
Awesome, thank you, Amanda. And also, I want to quick for code-based co-working. Again, appreciate the use of this space. And Kendra will be in the back if any of you guys are not members, but you'd like to take a tour. It's a co-working space, these 2 floors. So she's happy to give tours, and if you want to stay for an hour, I'm sure she'll be okay with that. But she'll be in the back, Kendra, or you can find me and I can point you in the right direction. So just I know a couple people in here are members, and so just really encourage you to do that. And then, do any of you you heard the types of events that we announced? So do any of you have any events, or is your company hiring that you'd like to use this platform to share? And you don't have to come up front, you can just stand where you are if you have anything to share. Are they hiring? Okay, well, I know that Poppy is, and CIC, and then I'm a recruiter by profession, so I'll name a couple things. If you know any C-sharp developers, 2 to 10 years of experience, right here in Charlottesville for a really, really cool tech company, come find me. And then I'm also looking for a part-time controller, accountant type professional, like 10 hours a week. It can be contracts or W-2. That's for a foundation, so let me know. And with that, we are done. We will be here the 3rd week of August. Can you believe it's already almost August? Craziness. We have, so fun fact, our early stage is actually a 12-year-old founder. So you have to come hear him. I'm very excited. And then we'll also have a freshman speaker, of course. So come back, bring your friends, and we'll see you next month. And you can stay here until 10. So there's coffee available and whatnot, so drink it up. All right, have a good one.